Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome back to another discussion video. This one, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that I hadn't talked about this yet, but I have talked a little bit of it, but not enough to kind of give details on it. And that is Kingdom Hearts' next game installment, being that of Melody of Memory. I keep getting that backwards. I don't know why I do that. I keep calling it Memories of Melody, but it's Melody of Memories. Whatever. Either way, I want to kind of go into a deep talk about Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory because we recently, or I say recently, but it's been like a week or two now, we had the final trailer for Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. Now, of course, within this final trailer, there was a lot that was told, you know, in terms of like how the game's going to be played, how it has multiple features, has some collectibles and stuff like that. There's a lot to go on when it comes to this particular game because at base value, Using to Yourself is a rhythm game. And, well, Kingdom Hearts has kind of like a sour trend when it comes to rhythm-based games. And it's one of those things where it's like, not a lot of people like them. Not a lot of people like them. It kind of spawns back to like Kingdom Hearts 2 with Atlantica being nothing more than a rhythm-based world. So there's that. But there has been a few rhythm-based features that was in Kingdom Hearts throughout the series. You know, there's a little bit in Dream Drop Distance. There's one minigame that was in Kingdom Hearts Burst by Sleep. And apparently there was one other minigame that was available for the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross app, which I did not know. But either way, so Memory Melody, on the surface level, it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, I could probably easily pass this because I'm not much of a fan when it comes to the rhythm-based scene. However, though, there was a couple things that kind of pulled me in, and for obvious reasons, and that is the fact that it features a continuous storyline after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3. So, naturally, of course, this features the events that happens during the Remind DLC where Kairi had been asleep and they're trying to figure out where Sora's at. Riku is trying to help in some way, and of course they're going through the memories that resides within Kairi to kind of figure out where they could find Sora. Now, of course, there are some major story plot details that are going on within the trailer that they kind of revealed. What was the fact that technically it showed Terra Xehanort, where he was his apprentice self, and he basically pulled Kairi and put it into this pod-looking thing. Now, for some who are familiar with this pod, it's the same pod that you see in Kingdom Hearts 1, but more so for other fans, they have seen this pod within Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. So, whatever is happening during those times is going to connect in some crazy way. How crazy, I honestly am afraid to ask, but I'm still kind of interested enough to know where it's going to go from here, because obviously this is going to be a bridge gap between Kingdom Hearts 3 and what's going to happen from here on out. Because if you've seen, after they showed the trailer, when they first showed the trailer of Memory of Melody, they showed off what is classified as Phase 2 of Kingdom Hearts. Phase 2? Phase 2? Are you... Oh gosh, I mean, okay, for starters, okay, it's bad enough that they did the whole Marvel thing, but technically even Sony, Microsoft, and technically Disney plays a part in Kingdom Hearts, because they did this not only for Marvel, Avenger-wise, they also did this sort of like in Star Wars, so it's sort of like, okay, so there's a trend that people are picking up and they're using this. But then again, Kingdom Hearts has been around for 15 plus years. Almost 20 when you think about it. It's going to be 20 years before long. So people like me are feeling the age. They're feeling old right now. But it's sort of like, what? What? What's going? What are you doing, Square Enix? Either that, or Disney decide to buckle down on Kingdom Hearts and be like, hey, do this. It's a crowd pleaser. Trust us. We've done this twice now. And Square is like, okay. And they did it. So it's like, what? Phase 2! Why? I don't know why they're I mean, don't get me wrong. The biggest thing that's on my mind right now, of course, with the future of Kingdom Hearts, is of course whether or not Sora's going to be coming back. Obviously, in regards to Lushu or Sigbart, depending on how you want to name him, with the foretellers, and then of course Yozora. Those are my main interests. Right now, what's going on right now, I don't know, because apparently there's like some plans going on. Nomura has actually announced stating that there are actually different branches that are working towards Phase 2 of Kingdom Hearts, and Melody of Memory is one of those branches that have been worked on since Kingdom Hearts 3 was first being developed and stuff. You know, I'm sure after they came up with the story and stuff, and as they were developing the game, they were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do it from here on out? And so, as soon as they were getting Kingdom Hearts 3 finished up, they decided to lay out the work layout to kind of give Kingdom Hearts more, I'm trying to think of the word that I'm trying to think here. More to do with Kingdom Hearts for the fan base. And that's good, you know. It means that we don't technically have to wait nearly as long for the next main installment, you know. It's sort of like how they did with the original Kingdom Hearts phase of pre-Kingdom Hearts 3, you know. I've mentioned several times that the series has went through a lot since Kingdom Hearts 2 in terms of laying out the story for Kingdom Hearts 3. And in my personal opinion, it worked really well. So who's to say how this next phase goes out in terms of the next big main installment of Kingdom Hearts? So it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes and how it plays and how it all connects. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know it's going to be interesting regardless. But, that aside, what do I think of Melody of Memory in terms of gameplay? I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be one of those type of games that's like, it's drastically different, okay? It's a different gameplay altogether, you know? Sort of like how Chain of Memories had a deck building system, you know, and it was interesting. And Chain of Memories isn't bad, you know. A lot of people actually look at it as one of the few unique ones. The real only bad Kingdom Hearts game that we ever actually got was actually coded, or recoded, however way you want to look at it. And that's only because of the fact that it was made for the mobile phone app. And it was re-released for the DS. And unfortunately, the game isn't that good. However, though, I think this will actually go above how Chain of Memories, as well as coded, well, better coded, but somewhat better than Chain of Memories because of two key factors. Key factor number one, the music. Unlike in Kingdom Hearts 2, where it featured the melody of like some Square Enix spin-off of The Little Mermaid and stuff like that, it actually is soundtracks from the Kingdom Hearts series, you know, so like Dearly Beloved, Simple and Clean, the themes of the different worlds, you have Shion's theme, Roxas' theme, so on and so forth. And so it's like, because of all the different soundtracks, I can guarantee you that the fan base has a number of favorite tracks within the Kingdom Hearts series. I actually have a bunch of them myself. But the series has a lot of favorite tracks that people love. And keep in mind, recently we had the orchestra tour of the Kingdom Hearts orchestra. So it's sort of like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that if people love the music of Kingdom Hearts, why not do a game based on the soundtracks from the different Kingdom Hearts games? That makes sense. That is actually something that makes a lot of sense for everything that is connected to Melody of Memory. And it was funny too, because some people had the ideal assumption that it plays somewhat the same way as like another music-based game, which was Final Fantasy. I forgot the title of that game. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about, but I have no idea of it. I only know of it because of the fact that a friend of mine was playing it, and he liked it pretty well. But it was one of those things where it's like, I don't like that art style personally myself. You know, the way it looks, definitely not a good look. Thankfully, though, Kingdom Hearts Memory of Melody is not using that. Well, not in their main gameplay, per se. It's sort of like an icon for menus and stuff, but it's definitely not the main gameplay look, thankfully. It's more of a Kingdom Hearts original engine style, which is interesting because you're still using the engine from Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff, but then you're using Kingdom Hearts previous history graphic style.
What?
Number 2 is the fact that you do have the extra story content that helps progress the story. Now, of course, you could argue and say that this could have easily been blown over, but unlike in Recoded, thankfully the gameplay has a little bit of variety to where you could actually enjoy the game. Now, a lot of people will probably say, but I hate rhythm games, and I understand that, but the good thing is they do have a mode to where it is just a one-button prop. In other words, you're only pushing one button, you're not having to push multiple buttons or whatever, you're just pushing the one button throughout the entire soundtrack. That is actually really cool to see. Not many companies would actually consider a dumb mode, if you will. And that's not to be bad. That's not to be bad in terms of anyone else, you know. There are obviously some people who are fans of rhythm-based games. You know, you have the Guitar Hero franchise and Rock Band, but most noticeably and most recently actually, Persona actually had this. They had a Persona 4 version and a Persona 5 version of these rhythm-based games. So it makes sense on the surface level why you would want a rhythm-based game from a particular franchise. And so Kingdom Hearts was a matter of time before they finally got their own version of a rhythm-based game because of how the soundtrack is. And if you are a fan of the soundtrack, chances are you're going to enjoy Kingdom Hearts Memory and Melody to a level of degree. Not completely enjoy it, not to be like incaptivated or whatever. You're going to enjoy it for what it is. It is basically something to hold you over until the big next Kingdom Hearts game. Now, of course, there are going to be level of difficulties. Sadly, unfortunately, there's been a leak reveal for the trophy listings of Kingdom Hearts Memory and Melody, which I thought was weird. But it was already revealed that there's going to be 3 separate trophies for difficulty-wise. And it's going to be like, okay, that means Proud Mode is going to be pretty difficult. Now, people are going to be like, well, where's Critical? It's a rhythm-based game. Do you really want anything harder than Proud? You really want anything harder than Proud? I don't. So let's just keep. Then again, it depends on how fans feel about it after Proud Mode. So I say if they played through Proud Mode and it wasn't challenging enough, then Square Enix will turn around and make a Critical Mode version and release it as a free patch DLC probably or something like that. And hopefully a free patch and not a DLC or whatever. But they'll have that access to Critical Mode, and they'll play that extra difficulty. But there are some other features, too, that are in this game. For example, there is a co-op feature. A co-op feature in Kingdom Hearts. Much less a rhythm-based one. And then there is online competitive, which you're trying to score a higher score and everything like that. It just, there's a lot of stuff that's actually in Memory or Melody, and I'm not sure how far this goes, but I'm actually kind of excited about it. I'm kind of looking forward to all the stuff that they have, and it's kind of cool to see this. It's kind of cool to see the co-op thing. I have high hopes for this. Not as high as hope as like Kingdom Hearts 3 level, or Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance level. It's a mild level of expectations. I expect this to be fun. I expect this to be a fun, unique experience for the Kingdom Hearts series, and that's a good thing to have. That's a healthy anticipation for the game, you know? It's nothing mind-blowing, but it is something that is unique. It is something to have to hold you over until the next big announcement for Kingdom Hearts, which, depending, might not be that far either, you know? I don't know what we can see, because from what I've seen so far, and thankfully they haven't really shown too much, well, for all we know it could be too much. I don't know how you look at it, but from where I'm looking at it, there's nothing to go off of. There's nothing really to grab onto in order to be like, oh, I know where this is going, or I know where this is going. No, really, it could be anyone's guess. You can say you know what's going to happen, but really, you don't know. You don't know their thinking. Nomura has a way of telling the story, and he has a way of kind of flipping things around to kind of make you think it's going to go one direction, but he's like, what about this direction that you can't see off screen? And it's like, oh, you expect me to see that? You know? Again, there's so many different levels of storytelling. And on the one hand, you could say you kind of hate it. In some cases, you can kind of love it. It depends on how it's like laid out and displayed for you. You can enjoy it for what it is, or you can hate it. You know, for me, depends on the outcome of it. You know, it could be just completely left field and you didn't think anything of it. Or it could be something that was pretty obvious and you're like, okay, that makes sense, you know. But overall, I think Memory Melody is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and the good thing is, we don't have to actually wait nearly as long. A lot of people theorized that this was going to be an October release, and a lot of people theorized it was going to be a December release. I actually thought that it was going to be a November release, you know? I didn't know when precisely in November, but I thought to myself, it's probably going to be a November release. And a lot of people were like, well, why? I was like, I don't know. There's no real reason, but they said it's not that far off, so it's like, November's pretty close to not being far off. December is still quite a ways, but November is actually closer. So it's like, maybe. Which, for those that are wondering, it's going to be released on November 11th in Japan and worldwide on the 13th. Now, what's even more interesting, and someone pointed this out on Twitter, but the release date for Kingdom Hearts Memory of Melody is the same release date that we're going to get the Kingdom Hearts 3 soundtrack. That's irony for you. That's that's an interesting timing. It's one of those things where it's like, how did you pull that off, Square? And I don't think even Square knows. They're just kind of running with it. And whatever works, it works in their favor. You know, it's one of those things where you can argue and say, oh, the whole 7777 price range was pretty obscene, because it's like, you know, why would you charge 7777 for something in regards? But it's like Final Fantasy 7, why not? Let's just go with the meme. Let's go with the joke. You know, in this case, it's just like it just happened. So, but either way, let me know in the comments below. Are you looking forward to Memory of Melody? Are you going to get it? Or are you just going to wait for people to release the story content onto YouTube, which chances are they will? But either way, I'm looking forward to it. So, it's just going to be a fun time. But anyway, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch you guys later.